Listen up, because tonight we're talking about something very boring that also happens to be very important: tariffs. In the simplest terms, a tariff is a tax on imported goods. That's it. It's like an extra toll booth, but instead of cars, it's for stuff coming into a country. Governments use tariffs for a bunch of reasons, mainly to protect their own industries or try to influence other countries' behavior. Now you might be thinking, tariffs? That sounds super old-timey, like something they'd argue about in a powdered wig. And you wouldn't be entirely wrong. Tariffs have been around for centuries, going back to ancient times. They were a major way governments got money back when taxes weren't exactly a hit single. Think of them as the original taxation without representation, except everyone was taxed without representation back then, so it was less of a rallying cry and more of a Tuesday. So how do tariffs actually work? Let's say a country, let's call it Fredonia, wants to protect its domestic widget industry from those pesky foreign widget makers. Fredonia slaps a 25% tariff on all imported widgets. Now, those widgets from, say, Sylvanistan are suddenly 25% more expensive for anyone in Fredonia to buy. The idea is that this price hike will make Fredonian-made widgets more appealing to local consumers. After all, who wants to pay more for a widget just because it came from a country with a cooler-sounding name? This protectionist measure, in theory, helps Fredonian widget makers compete and maybe even create more jobs. That's the idea, anyway. Now, let's dive into some real-world examples, because as we know, reality is far more complex than hypothetical countries with catchy names. Remember the trade war between the US and China? Indeed, tariffs were the primary weapon in that economic showdown. The US imposed tariffs on billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods, and China responded with its own tariffs on US products. The outcome? Higher prices for consumers, uncertainty for businesses, and a significant amount of tension. Not exactly a formula for a stable and thriving global economy. So, are tariffs good or bad? The answer, as with most things in life, is it depends. On the one hand, tariffs can protect domestic industries and jobs, at least in the short term. They can also be used as a bargaining chip in international trade negotiations. You want access to our market? Well, you better lower your tariffs on our cheese, buddy. On the other hand, tariffs often lead to higher prices for consumers, which can hurt demand and slow economic growth. They can also spark retaliation from other countries, leading to those fun trade wars we talked about. So, like most tools, tariffs can be useful in the right hands and for the right reasons. But more often than not, they end up being used like a hammer to fix a messy, ineffective, and likely to leave everyone involved worse off.